Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. UK international education is rather being rebuilt in real time, as we all know. So we have the graduate route is shortening, the agent management is definitely changing, compliance is certainly the threshold rising by the minute, it seems. And students are asking different questions than they used to. So they're not just asking about rankings and whether they're going to get a visa, they really want to know whether the pathway they choose is actually going to hold up in the real world. So today's conversation is about that part of the system that answers that question, long before a student ever sets foot on a degree program, the pathway program. So I am joined here today by two people who sit on either side of that architecture. Sarah Brennand, co-founder of Illuminare Executive Education, and she leads the development of university accredited executive programs, including executive mini MBAs and specialist leadership qualifications designed for international markets. Bobby Mehta is the Vice-Chancellor for Global Engagement at the University of Portsmouth, and he runs one of the UK's most established integrated pathway operations, International College Portsmouth, alongside a growing transnational education footprint. Sarah and Bobby, thank you both very much for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation to join you.
Oh, great. It was great to have you both here. So I'm just going to put a little context out first, and then invite you guys to please, give us your contributions. So basically, like we said, we all know the UK's 2026 international education strategy didn't totally rewrite immigration law, but it has very much tied student recruitment to compliance and quality. The agent quality framework used to be kind of a guideline. Now it's really pretty much mandatory. The basic compliance assessment thresholds have tightened. From January next year, the graduate route itself drops from 24 months to 18. Feeder and pathway programs are kind of sit right in the middle of that recruitment pressure. So you have the ambition for, on one side and quality assurance on the other. So Sarah and Bobby, I'll ask you both, is this the model where pathways and feeder programs get squeezed a bit, or is the feeling that they're going to become even more important? Sarah, maybe I'll start with you. What are your impressions on that?
Yeah, of course. Look, I think both. I think, undoubtedly this is creating pressure in the sector, but I think pressure and opportunity are not mutually exclusive. I think what this does do is shine a light on the need for the quality of program creation right through to that program delivery and the experience and the opportunities that students get on those feeder and those pathway programs. I think it makes that really important for all stakeholders involved. And I think actually there's a real opportunity for those that already do that really well to excel really quickly, and it creates pressure or opportunity for those that aren't doing it quite so well to either catch up really quickly, because this is happening from this summer and changes in 2027 as well. I think in places historically, and my experience at the moment, and I'm sitting here as Illuminare Executive Education, we create and have created pathway programs ourselves with relationships with university. But prior to that, I've sat on the other side of the table in UK higher education universities too, creating and validating pathway providers in the UK and overseas. And I think where we're at the moment, the process, the higher education institutions, it is much more important now to only be partnering with those providers who have the same level of commitment to academic integrity and the rigor of not just the curriculum design, but the student experience that they have whilst learning the programs, but also that will open the doors for them thereafter as well. So I think there's huge opportunity, but it kind of comes down to, I think the shifts that will happen in the market depends on those providers at the moment and how ready they are or how evolved they are already to respond to that.
Thanks, Sarah. And Bobby, what about from your standpoint?
I agree with a lot of what Sarah's sort of mentioned. I think there's pressure on the system at the moment, and it's a downward pressure. It's a squeeze on the students coming to the UK, because if you look at what's going on in market at the moment, there's delays in visa processing, there is a higher degree of rejection, and not necessarily accurate decision making based on fact. There's other things that are playing into that as well. So I think that's one aspect of it, but the other aspect of it is there was abuse of the student route, and that's why the thresholds, the compliance elements have been such a focus over the last couple of years. You've got everything from the agent framework, quality framework that's been put into play. You've got the BCA metrics, which the government have introduced to try and drive compliance. But the question is, and if you look at pathway, if you look at universities, the pathway market in the UK is a significant part of the ecosystem, part of the mix, and we've got very well established pathway providers at the University of Portsmouth. We work with the International College Portsmouth, which is a Navitas pathway provider on campus. We've had that relationship for over 15, 20 plus years. It's been a long-standing partnership. I started 10 years ago, and it was already a really, really strong partnership. And then you've got other pathway providers across the UK that are well established, have gone through many years of that rigor that Sarah was talking about, gone through the quality assurance, and are doing everything in the right way. And universities, again, have generally done everything in the right way, have the right approaches. So it's going to be interesting to see over the next period of time, have the measures that the government have introduced, compliance measures, etc., are they gone one step too far and actually are now penalizing genuine students, quality students that want to come to the UK? I think that the balance at the moment has gone completely the other way, and part of that is because the Home Office has had so much change, government has had so much change in the UK, and they want to act very quickly on what is seen as abuse in the system, the immigration numbers, student numbers being caught up in that whole mix as well. And they've taken a number of measures. You mentioned the reduction in the graduate route time frame, and other measures, the dependence, the thresholds that they've moved. And they haven't just moved one threshold, they've moved all three measures in the BCA metrics. The introduction of compliance around the agent quality framework, and all universities needing to comply with that, and pathway providers, etc. So there's a lot of change that has happened, but not any one of those changes have been allowed to play out to see has that achieved a desired impact. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to go the other way. We've gone too far with a lot of these measures, and it's going to end up being counterproductive, and the UK is going to end up losing out on genuine students who will therefore choose other study destinations and go elsewhere. So it's nothing to do with necessarily the universities, the pathway. I think it's the policy environment that's going to drive that. I think the demand is still there, and if you look at demand, it's going into other study destinations. So I think, unfortunately, that's probably the cycle we're in at the moment, and it's a difficult one to break, because a lot of these policies will take a little while to have the impacts and to be seen. And usually, as we all deal with data, we're usually looking at less retrospective data, which is a year or so behind the decision making that's actually made today. So yeah.
Exactly. And, that kind of retrospective data is really taking effect. And a lot of universities are being, having their kind of, feet put to the fire for not meeting data that wasn't even in place when they were, supposed to be meeting it yet. So the university's been working towards one metric, and then, the goalposts get changed right in the middle of the game. which some might view as a bit unfair. But yeah, I mean, look, I understand what you're saying. And just to go back to you, Sarah, for a second, because it's a little bit different where you sit, and maybe you could explain this for our listeners a little bit. I mean, you validate, like I said, primarily executive level academic programs, correct? And you've also been working across, I believe, like a lot of other countries. So your perspective, as you do, Bobby, as well. So you got the UK, Singapore, Botswana. We had, Denmark, I believe, UAE. You did a bunch of stuff when you were at Derby, I think.
Yeah.
And so, how does that perspective, and how do you put it, in this, where that sits in the overall student journey ecosystem, when most people just from all those places look at what they would call a pathway program and how that slots into the UK and all these other issues that Bobby was just elaborating on a second ago.
Yeah, do you know, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there are definitely different needs, wants and desires in terms of a learning journey in different parts of the world. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't even say in this country it's this and in this country it's, it's something different, but there is generally different trends. I think as a university, and when I was at the University of Derby, and still very much what I absolutely believe in and what we are creating and have created in Illuminare Executive Education, it has to be about higher education actually full stop, has to be about creating opportunities for learners to enable them to be ready to achieve what they want to do in their career and in the current landscape and in the predicted landscape that they will enter into or are in as they're learning. So, in terms of the different countries and things that you mentioned, a lot of my work there was about establishing validated programs, franchise partners, progression partners, articulation routes, so that somebody in, for example, Singapore could either study in country for some or part of the program, or could top up with us in the UK, or they could they could study there, but then they could stay in Singapore and do the top up there, but still get a UK qualification. The same with all the other countries. It's about going, actually, regardless of what country you're in, if you want to come to the UK, how can we partner with institutions in your country, ensure that the quality of education you will receive maps absolutely into the values and the ethos and the quality standards that our university absolutely needs, expects, coming back to that, all of that data, but actually just because we really care about making sure you get the best form of education you can. So it's, I think from a university perspective, it's about being as flexible and agile as possible to partner in the different ways. That is progression routes in, articulating large number of students from one singular program. It is franchising with institutions in country to be able to deliver that UK university degree program fully in country or partially in country. It is validating local curriculum and awarding the university degree so that it is contextualising what that country, institution, region absolutely need, based on maybe the industry that they're specialising in and the specialists they have, but still adhering to that UK education quality framework. And it's working with recruitment providers as well. And I think as I've kind of moved into the private sector and Stephen and I set up Illuminare Executive Education, what we do and the whole heart of why we created Illuminare Executive Education was to be able to create, first of all, that executive education, so that the training, the non-credit bearing, your certificate of training, but that is of a university level. So it's exactly what we used to deliver when we sat in the universities. We're just sitting in the private sector to be agile and flexible in the delivery. However, because of our years, 20 years plus of working in UK higher institutions, the recognition of that university level quality of education is really important and really sought after in a number of countries, and making that, so having the university certified, that recognition of quality standard, but it isn't a credit-bearing qualification. Adds weight, it adds value to that program of learning. But more recently, and again, it's taken a long time. It's taken us nearly 18 months to launch our Executive Performance Academy, and that is because we've built it around, although we're in the private sector, we've built it around all of the quality frameworks that we absolutely, lived and breathed when we were a higher education institution. So it has taken a long time to become a registered centre, to partner with ATHE, which are one of the highest quality Ofqual regulated bodies, to award our programme, to ensure that we've partnered with multiple universities, because it kind of coming back to opportunities. We want our learners who want to kind of come on our programmes to be able to just do training. If they want qualifications, to add on the assessments and get a stackable qualification, to build it up in a way that they want to over a time frame that fits them, to create a diploma, and then to choose the university that they want to top up and do their final dissertation to get an MBA award. And again, it's that individual kind of personal journey where it's rigorous, it's quality assured, but different people are going to want to study that in different ways. Some want it online, some want it in country, some will want different universities to top up with. And we've taken a long time. We've already had very strong relationships with a number of UK universities from our time in the sector, but we don't just go, actually, we'll just partner with 20, we have relationships with them. So we know when you go and top up, we know what your experience is going to be. We know the people who are delivering the programme. We know that you're going to be looked after. We know that your employability opportunities are good and strong if you want to make use of them. And I think that's because we've moved into the provider area, pathway provider, from HE, so we know what that journey is going to end like, and we want to make the best possible journey into it, and add value at every stage. I think historically it will be harder now because of everything we've just talked about in terms of policy and metric. It used to be quite easy to become a pathway provider and to register with a regulator and create something, but it isn't easy to do that and make sure that all of the quality frameworks and the transition and that progression data and everything that universities need are kind of built in. So I think that's where, coming back to the first question, that opportunity and pressure, I think it depends how providers were set up in the first instance as to whether they're feeling that pressure or not, or whether they're actually going, do you know what, we're ready for this. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's certainly the journey we've gone on and are experiencing.
No, it did. Thank you, Sarah. That was very informative, and that leads very neatly into actually one of the questions along those lines that I was just going to ask Bobby, in that you have at Portsmouth two quite kind of different things that you're doing. So you have the International College Portsmouth with your partner Navitas, which is you've had for a long time. So that goes in a lot of ways to what Sarah was saying. It's established. You know them, they know you. You both know what you expect from each other. You know what the guidelines are. So the quality is pretty assured, which must be very reassuring to parents and students and so forth. And then you have the other things that you're doing, which is not necessarily with that partner, but with other partners around the world in your T&E footprint. Can you talk about the differences and how those, like operationally, and how you look at them and how you plan them and those kind of structures?
Yeah, so I would describe ICP, the International College Portsmouth, the Navitas pathway provision that we offer on campus, as an integral part of the university now. It feels like a sixth faculty. It's no different to any part of the university, very embedded. We work, as you noted, very closely together, and that's basically a pathway into the university where it's bridging gaps in educational systems where in a number of countries around the world they may have done a 12-year system. In the UK it's a 13-year system, so they need that year of bridging. There may be deficits in English language, there may be deficits in math, science, that we would expect to bring them up to a similar level to an A-level student coming directly into the first year of programs. It may be students are coming from particular settings, particular countries where they're not familiar with UK education and they need that more supportive environment in the first year or so of their studies. So again, that pathway provision on campus, part of our campus, integrated into the student community is really, really powerful and enables us to reach international students that we wouldn't be able to reach, and give them the opportunity to progress onto higher education in the UK in a way that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So that's what we offer on campus, and it's very successful. Even this week we've seen a number of ICP students that came through the ICP college graduating this week. We've got graduation happening on campus. So year after year we have students that have now successfully come through and moving then on to careers. Around 18 months ago, the university had a new strategic plan that was in development, and one of the priorities the university identified was transnational education. So that's something different. So transnational education, when we're looking at it from the University of Portsmouth perspective, it's about doing things in other parts of the world, offering our degrees in other parts of the world in different formats, or creating partnerships that enable our students to go out through mobility opportunities, creating dual degree programs where, for example, in Australia, and we've got one in development in Canada, we have partnerships where students from the UK will go out and do a part of their study in Australia or Canada, and they will then graduate with a dual degree. So they study in both countries and they will graduate with an Australian and a UK degree at the end of their studies. You mentioned the example of Roots Ivy in Pakistan, and there's other examples of partnerships that either exist or are in the process of being created. I won't be able to tell you all about the ins and outs of them yet because they're not in the public domain yet, but some really exciting things in the pipeline. But those partnerships with, for example, with Roots Ivy, is where we are delivering and franchising our programs to a delivery partner in country, in this case, and they then work very closely with our academic team. We quality assure everything. They provide the infrastructure, the facilities, which meet UK quality assurance standards and meet our requirements from an individual course perspective. And then they deliver those programs in country. And what that enables is it enables students that may not be able to travel to the UK, students that can't necessarily afford the full study in the UK, students that may have other issues that don't allow them to travel, and right now, as we mentioned earlier, the new immigration situation where there are more issues with students getting visas and whether the universities are able to sponsor them and all of those types of things. It gives opportunities to those students as well to still obtain a UK qualification, maybe that be a degree level or master's level in country, locally, in their city or in a city in their locality. So it really does play into that. And if you look at the international international education strategy that the UK government put out recently, in that strategy they talk very much about transnational education and the importance that they see that as part of the UK's exports as well. So there's a move away from students coming here in the same volumes that they may have done or there may be opportunity for, but for the UK to play into that space where we are delivering locally. So University of Portsmouth, we've been doing transnational education for a long time, but in the last 18 months, we are now looking to expand that activity, identify where there are needs, where there are wants, where our programs are best fit, where there are partners that we can work with, and like, as Sarah mentioned, develop that strong relationship similar to the one we have with Navitas with the ICP arrangement, and then take our degree programs and deliver those locally in country to the same standard, the same specification that we would offer here in Portsmouth. So yeah, that's the plan, and it's going well. Right now, I would say whilst the UK, US, Australia and Canada are looking inward and not being as receptive to students coming to study in their respective countries, I think other study destinations are coming up. So you're seeing, the Middle East in Dubai, you're seeing India, you're seeing Pakistan, either catering to a local population or catering and wanting to become an international study destination in their own right. Right now in China, there is a significant move towards that. So again, being able to offer UK degrees in those countries will enable them to attract students from neighbouring countries. And it comes at the right time, I guess, because it's a time where the UK is not being as welcoming from a policy perspective in terms of students coming to the UK. So it's good timing in a sense, but it's different. It is a different experience. And as Sarah said, there are students out there that want different things. Some students want that international experience. They want to go and immerse themselves on a campus somewhere. Other students, for whatever reason, want to stay local, need to stay local, and this creates opportunities for them. So I still think there is room for the traditional student recruitment and study destinations like the UK still attracting significant numbers of international students, but this is what I would describe as new ground, new frontier, where we are then able to cater. And if you look at, for example, in Pakistan is one of the fastest growing regions in terms of populations in the world. And if you look at the university age students numbers, they're going like that. Each year there's more and more university age students, but the supply of university places is not necessarily enough. So there is a requirement, a need for universities like ourselves to go and help fulfill that demand by offering quality UK higher education. And also what I think will happen over time is that will also help institutions in Pakistan also improve what they're doing locally as well. And the other thing I'll just note before I come back to you, Les, is that Sarah noted about the flexibility of qualifications and demands and the wants of students being different. And I think that is a big issue right now that universities and the whole sort of education ecosystem needs to look at. There's a lot of change in the UK landscape with long life learning entitlement, the way things are going to be funded in the future is going to look different. That sort of micro credentials and building and stacking qualifications is definitely coming in. I think the UK and organisations like Sarah's are ahead of the game in lots of respects. I think the rest of the world will look at what's happening in the UK, because the same issues that we have in the UK exist elsewhere. And usually what I've seen over the sort of last 25 years, other countries look towards the UK to learn from our experiences and what we're doing here. So, the apprenticeships, the skills agendas, all of these things which are really hot topics right now in the UK are going to be the same topics which will be seen elsewhere around the world. And I think, again, if we can be ahead of that curve as a whole education system, there is a lot of opportunities where we will still be able to contribute to the development of education globally.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that, Bobby. And I going back to your very salient point about some being ahead of the game more than others. There is a wide range in the UK, both in the public and private sector. So this, a lot of the TNE that we're hearing about, it can be a very large umbrella, that and how people interpret it. Obviously at Portsmouth, you have been fortunately ahead of the game. You've had a lot of these international partnerships either being built or not waiting until the government sort of not very subtly in its latest thing is sort of telling everybody, actually, don't bring them here, go teach them over there. That's easier. Don't let them get a visa. And now you have things like what Sarah's designed for her executive programs is that sort of nice position where students have a bit of choice. They can have a bit better, a bit of both worlds. So they have, there's an online provision where they can stay in country. They can do it at less expense. They don't have to worry about a visa for at least a certain number of credits that they need. And then they can have the option, even in a lot of those cases, to either finish their full MBA degree online or come to a UK university and get that cultural experience and all that kind of thing, in country. So that's the best of both worlds, I'd say. And so Sarah, that fits into what you were talking about. I mean, a lot of what this discussion has gone to, and I knew it would kind of happen, is, we have the Home Office's updated sponsor guidance. It's asking institutions, for instance, to evidence how they manage their agents and their pathway partners against agent, the quality framework, the National Code of Ethical Practice. It sounds like the type of validation that you've been doing for a while anyway, though. It's kind of what Illuminare does. So how do you think about the academic credibility as the actual kind of currency of a leader program, and how that now that regulators are asking institutions to kind of prove it?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is the currency. I think it has to be. I actually think it's significant, but it's almost just the foundation, and you have to have that in order to be able to start, to develop everything on it and deliver a quality practice to learners, to students, to professionals. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think when you work in higher education, you can use the word like, oh, it's validated, and just assume everybody knows what that means. And I know we kind of use this word validation quite interchangeably, because you have a validated program where you can validate as a university somebody else's curriculum and kind of devolve the delivery to them. But also we just use that word, oh, it's a validated program, and that might just mean it's approved, for example. Now, I know sitting on the side of the table that I do now, creating courses, training courses, qualifications ourselves, I know I could go to a CPD provider and in 4 weeks have it certified. Now, to get a university certification for training, I'm probably looking at like 4 to 6 months to get it approved. We could still use the word validated. To get it, for it to become a qualification, as I say, that process has taken us up to 18 months to get all of those foundations in place, because it isn't just about going, here's the paperwork, can you validate it or can you approve it? As a university or as an off-qual, like an ATHE approve our bespoke curriculum, that has meant multiple board meetings with regulators, with internal panel members, with external panel members, with external examiners who have scrutinised our centre structure, our delivery, our moderation process, and on the other side, a university, that's it's not just it's validated, it should be, is it thoroughly ready to even start? And then once that programme starts, all the metrics of engagement, admissions, progression data, all of those things are a continual program. So it is a currency, it's a currency that you need to have in order to start, but it's that ongoing currency as well. So I think I guess the change in policy just shines a light on the importance of it. But also, I think it's really, and I know, it's really easy with when you're in and around higher education to use the words, even things like micro-credentials, that's something I remember having an exec meeting about in 2011 and going, wouldn't it be great to build a micro-credentials masters? And we've managed to launch it in Illuminare this year. But that's, that essentially means you can do a module that's that's approved, it's got credits rather than just training, and you can stack them to build a degree program. In essence. So I just thought I'd share that in case listeners are going, I don't know what you mean by micro-credentials, because it's another language, isn't it, that I think we just are so familiar with. No,
I know exactly what you mean, and you throw these words around and just kind of we live in this little microcosm and assume everybody knows what we're talking about. And, sometimes, they look at you like, you have a third eye in the middle of your forehead. Like, what do you mean by that? Never heard that. You're right. And I think now that you've described it that way, that's really helpful, those micro-credentials and stacking credits enough to add up to, I think most of us can understand, you have enough credits to be awarded that degree, and that's how you build that. And there's more than one way to build those systems, and that's one of the things that you are doing. Going back to sort of more the beginning of the other, the beginning part of not the executive education, but more the earlier learners, the Portsmouth, you correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but I believe you have a 5-star QS rating across your teaching, employability, internationalization, facilities, inclusiveness, and offers the connected degrees of built-in work placement years, which has been really of the moment the last few years. So that's quite a specific promise to keep to students who start on a pathway, not the degree itself. So can you explain a little bit how the ICP curriculum is engineered so the pathway student is actually working toward that outcome from the get-go, from week one, not just toward an English test or something like that?
So it's very much as Sarah sort of described it. It's a very complex process. It's a detailed process, and it involves colleagues both around quality assurance, but most importantly academic colleagues who are subject experts who have created degree programs. Every individual module is developed and scrutinized and approved both internally, externally, often by industrial partners, but most importantly often by professional bodies as well who accredit our programs. If you look at anything from our engineering programs accredited by chartered engineering associations to our accounting and finance programs, our business school, etc. So every module, every part of the program is designed in a particular way. And when you have a pathway program, whether that be the ICP operation that we have on campus or anything that we're recognizing, articulating, where we recognize somebody else's credits where they've done it somewhere else and they're coming in, academic colleagues will be involved with mapping the curriculum, looking at the curriculum that's being offered either at the foundation level or the credit that's being brought in, and to see how that learning is similar to the learning that is being done and designed in the Portsmouth degree. They look at what the content of each module is. They look at, most importantly, the learning outcomes and how those learning outcomes are actually measured. How are they tested? What's the assignments related to that? Is it exam-based, etc.? How do you know that the student has covered the modules, etc.? So the scrutiny is of all of that on an individual module by module basis. And then once you have that understanding that these programs equip the student in the right way to have those foundation blocks, as Sarah described, to be able to build on. Because if they don't have the foundation blocks, particularly as you progress through a university degree, you won't be able to understand the content that you're studying at a higher level, and therefore you're likely to fail and not succeed and not pass. And then that really does play out, especially as you get towards the end of your degree and to your dissertation stage. So as Sarah was mentioning, the way they do things is they have these individual micro-credentials which link together, and then they work with the university where they progress to do the dissertation. Now, if those individual modules, those individual micro-credentials are not fit for purpose or not giving you the correct information, the correct learning outcomes, then the impact that has on your dissertation and that end output that you put out will not work. It will be a failure. It will be underrepresentative of that subject area, and you will not pass. You will not be able to defend a dissertation, particularly at master's level where you're supposed to be the master of that subject matter. If the foundation, those building blocks are not correct, it won't work. So academic colleagues look at all of this in the program design, and when they're working with external partners, whether they be pathway providers or others, they assess all of this, and that's why it takes so long, because it's not a simple process of just reading a paper and saying, yeah, that sounds right, but they have to get under the bonnet and really understand how does this work. And they're interested in everything from the facilities that you have, if there's a particular computer program that is needed, a particular software, a particular database that students should have access to enable them to, do you have access to that? If not, how are you going to fix that? The type of learning environment, whether it's whiteboards, blackboards, computers, they look at the whole spectrum of that and understand, how do you support students? Because, when students are going through, and this is the strength of UK higher education, it's not just about the education experience, it's about the student experience, their well-being. Are they being looked after? We have in the UK the RFS, which is the Office for Students, and the UK regulator. And as it mentions in their title, students are central to all of this. So it's not just the academic journey, it's also how they go through the process and how they're supported to make that journey. And that's why things like the connected curriculum, the connected degrees, building and work placements, to make sure that what we are doing at the university is enabling the student to be part of the future workforce. Sarah mentioned earlier that they've got to be looking at what the future trends are, what the future needs are, and that's what academic colleagues are continuously doing, because they're researching into the latest developments in their subject area. They know, and they're at the forefront of the pinnacle because they spend time doing research, understanding what the latest, and often a lot of the professors that are involved with the different subject areas will be leading professors in the subject area, doing groundbreaking research or applying research in a groundbreaking way across the subject. So all of that then is brought back into the curriculum to ensure that the students that are coming through have all those skill sets and knowledge and experience, so that when they apply for jobs and go into industry, that they are ready. And that's a big part of the equation at the moment. The skills. A lot of employers say graduates are graduating, and at Portsmouth we're focusing a lot on the skills agenda, because we want to make sure not only does the student have the academic knowledge, but they have the skills and they are able to apply it when they get into employment. So yeah, those are all the things that are really current, and that's why, as Sarah described, the process is not straightforward. It takes time, and it is really involved, and that's why the cost of higher education is what it is, because it is a really valuable product that you're actually buying, and the experience, the knowledge, the exposure you will get as part of that higher education experience is all built from those individual modules that come together to form a year, to form a program, to form a whole degree, which then hopefully will open doors for lots of students.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bobby. That makes perfect sense, and you're quite right to shed light on the amount that goes into under the bonnet, as you say, that isn't evident to everybody, and doesn't really need to be. But when push comes to shove, I think about what's gone in to make this program as valuable as it is. Why are we paying this much money for it? Well, this is who's validated. These are the groups of people who spent time and making sure this is right, making sure the outcomes are right, studying the data year on year to make sure that it's being improved and doing everything it should do. So yeah, there's an awful lot of I's to dot and T's to cross and those sorts of things from in that perspective. And then there's also the kind of the I's to dot and T's to cross when it comes to the government perspective. So just to shift a little bit to do all those and to get those students in. Now, since April, I think I came in. Every CAS now, it's a Certificate of Acceptance of Studies, has to record exactly which agent is recruiting the student. So there's a lot more emphasis on that. So sponsors must evidence how they manage those relationships against the agent quality framework. for those students either arriving on a pathway or arriving, from a executive online program to the UK. So in practice, and I'll start with you, Sarah, but actually I'd like to get both your input on this. I mean, how has that changed how you each are documenting the quality inside your relationships with your partners, and has it changed the conversations you're having with your current partners and with the direction you'll take future partners? How is that affecting all that?
If I jump in first, I think for us in the creation of the Executive Performance Academy and the qualifications we now offer and the university relationships, I think it's for us, it's about having that connected relationship. So rather than it just being, this is a provider name and then you pass over responsibility to the university, it's about trying to make that transition from the learner journey from our diploma into the final stage MBA, for example, feel connected, so that when they join us, they already know where they are able to go. And we have conversations with the universities. They know we've agreed what we can and can't say to the students. We know what we can and can't promise. We recruit based on the enrollment and admission requirements of the respective universities, so we know that transition's seamless, so we won't get to a stage where a student wants to progress and they suddenly can't. We're tracking the same metrics and data as the university will, so we're providing a learning environment that we know they'll experience when they get there, a version of the virtual learning environment, the access to academic resources, the pastoral support. So I think from my side, we have created an offer that should make that student journey very seamless. I think it kind of coming back to my previous roles in the university, I think it very much pushes universities to go beyond, as a recruiter or as a provider, how many students can you bring us and how does that work, from what countries we need, and to actually, making sure that that is much more connected and that there is a lot more asked of that initial part of the journey. But I'll pass over because that's no longer my seat. I sit on the other side to Bobby to answer what they now do or will do.
Yeah, I guess my reflections on it is compliance, and I think universities over the recent years have become more driven and more directed by compliance measures and the compliance agendas. Now, some of those compliance requirements are not universities created issues, or even anything really to do with things we've been talking about up until now, quality of students, quality of education, quality of outcomes, degrees, all of those types of things. So you're getting pulled into areas of immigration, and because of the way numbers are counted, and therefore we need to drive down immigration, therefore we need to put these policies in place. But that's nothing to do with higher education. And I think that universities have been subject to a lot of those types of issues, which are not university issues. Sometimes the system is not right, sometimes the system is not working, and we've been given additional compliance measures to meet and deal with as a result of that. So I think that's the situation. We can't necessarily change the situation. We can lobby, we can talk about it, but equally we're part of it, so we have to take the responsibility that's given to us. And I think, to be fair to most UK universities and most parts of the ecosystem, they want to do things properly. There are really good parts of the system, really good players who, like universities, we ultimately want to recruit students who, as we've described, we want to put them through the degree program and them to become graduates and then move on. That's our aim. There's nothing more or less involved than that. But unfortunately, there are players within the ecosystem. There are players that are part of bad behavior, that are not working in partnership with the system, which is causing a lot of issues, and that may be issues of students coming here not fulfilling the requirements and not completing their courses, sometimes coming to the UK and not studying, all of those types of things. And UK universities, since the introduction of points-based immigration, all the requirements that have been put in front of them, they approach them in the manner that you would expect, and try to be as compliant as possible. And in terms of the partners that we work with, whoever those partners are, we work with those partners. And I think there is a responsibility on the partners as well to make sure that they're doing things in the way that is correct, in the spirit of the partnership and in the spirit of the ecosystem. But there are so many parts of the higher education system. When you come to the recruitment, you've got agents involved, you've got schools involved, you've got so many different things going on. And now with technology, you have aggregators, you have aggregation going on, different ways for students to get information, different guidance, different things going on, which all has an impact on what's... I think when you look at it, it's a very complex picture, but generally I would say universities are doing what they need to do, approaching it in the right spirit and trying to be as compliant as possible to make sure that students that are genuine are coming to the UK for the right reasons and progressing through the system.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. Having speaking to a lot of people in the sector, I get very little indication that most universities aren't trying to do exactly what you were just saying. Universities have very little to gain by playing, silly games. They're not going to take chances with something as valuable as their sponsor licenses and things like that. And the outcomes that you've been talking about, Bobby, are pretty well evidenced in some of the numbers I've just been looking at before our podcast today, because it's, as far as I know, it says that 94% of Portsmouth's graduates are in work or further study within 15 months. That's very impressive. Most would agree. But now you've got the graduate route shrinking, which again, the universities, it wasn't their idea. We have going from 24 months to 18. So that's like 6 fewer months now that students, through no fault of their own particularly, have time to convert a degree into a career before their visa clock runs out, right? So how does that change? Does that impact on how anybody looks at, all the way back to the beginning, how these pathways need to deliver very, very quickly, even in just the first few weeks, not just academically, but in terms of something you alluded to earlier, those skills, that career readiness? Does that need to start earlier and more in earnest? And how do you look at that?
To be honest with you, the way I've always advised students, the way I've always looked at it, whether it be my own children or pupils of considering university options, etc., is that you have to look ahead. When you're signing up for most degree programs, it's quite specific in terms of the career path that you're aiming for. So you've got to look ahead, and usually when students start a degree program, or particularly when it's a 12-month master's program, they have got limited time in terms of getting accustomed to the UK and getting accustomed to academic culture, the city, the living, etc. But they can't ignore being career ready as well. So looking at what career options there are, what are the graduate schemes, what are the job opportunities at the end of the program, what are the types of things that they are interested in, making sure things like their CVs are the best they can be. And what you find is universities are there, they have all the support systems around them in terms of careers and employability. We can help with you, giving you guidance in terms of where to look, how to look, support databases, improvement of CVs, and lots of workshops. At Portsmouth, a big part of the curriculum is getting industrial speakers to come in and get speakers to talk to students about what career options there are, what industries looking for, etc., to prepare them for that. a lot of the programs are applied in nature, so there will be field trips, there will be opportunities to visit industry and to see what reality looks like as well. So it's making the most of all of those opportunities, and with the shrinking of the graduate route, it just means that needs to be done even more so upfront than ever before. But I do think there, as I said before, there is a significant shift in the landscape in what students want and the way they wanted it. I don't think necessarily the traditional way of studying will necessarily play out. I think there will be a mixed economy. I think in the long term, particularly technology, particularly with artificial intelligence, that you might not need to do what you're doing at the moment. You might study a degree, and that gives you the great foundation to kick on, but that long life learning part of things, you need the need to continually educate and continue to learn. Long life learning, I think, is definitely going to be a big part of the mix. And some of the things Sarah described, where you're doing blocks of training or blocks of education, which then can be combined and possibly lead to a higher qualification. But I think it's really that up-to-date skills, because things are changing at a far more rapid pace than they've ever done before.
Yeah, and that leads right very nicely exactly into where I was hoping to go with the next question for Sarah, because yes, it's all those that holistic approach, which is not just what you've learned academically, it's not just one thing, it's not just even additive, it's cumulative. So I mean, Illuminare's own program, Sarah, they have sit in leadership, correct, and resilience, emotional intelligence. So it's not just curriculum design, right? And it's kind of weird to say, feeder students for you, because it's more the other end, executive students. But yeah, again, they're still adapting to an online program. You're adapting online programs to different countries, to new academic cultures. Now they got a shorter runway to prove it was worth it in some ways, depending on how they're going. So what does the employability angle need to include for your type of pathways, your L7 executive programs? What are they? Is there anything that some of the other kinds of programs leave out that you're trying, to get right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think you're right. Generally, the professionals that come on our training programs and that come on the qualifications are, coming back to that link to the MBA, they have a amount of experience or undergraduate qualifications that would enable them to enrol onto. So typically, 5 years of experience or an undergraduate degree. However, I think the employability agenda is really, really interesting because yes, it's, for that traditional study, it kind of forces that need to ensure that the study enables the employability requirements and that there's market there for them. I think where we focus our provision and that kind of stackable area is about actually you can study in a way that works for you. You can build your qualification, so you're not having to do training and then think, oh, I like that, I'm going to go and find a degree that now, and almost repeat learn. So you can build it as you go. So it can be done alongside your current role more easily anyway. But really our focus is about accelerating career. So, it's what is it you want to achieve? How can we help you do that more? So the extended diploma in executive resilience and high performance leadership, for example, has 6 key units. Now the first 3 are very much an extension of, I authored a book last year, it came out this year through De Gruyter, and that focused on the balancing act for mastering work, wealth and well-being. It's an academic book that sits in the professional space, but my own research focuses on high performance of individuals in that business space. So actually the key things that enable high performance are emotional intelligence, skilled communication and resilience. And resilience, on all of those areas are big, but if you take resilience, for example, you've got daily, transitional and high performance. Now anyone going through a learning journey is always going to be needing that transitional resilience. The program we offer, the first 3 units are each of those areas. We need to develop people who have high levels of self-awareness, who are able to create and communicate cross-culturally, globally, in a flexible way. We need to be able to build the resilience, not just this high performance, or this for big major things, but we need to enable people who can sustain success and can sustain performance. So the reason for the first 3 units is to enable and to develop that human edge, which I think actually when you look at all of the developments in technology will become absolutely vital as a differentiator, because behind a laptop we can all almost send in the identical piece of work or report, but actually when you then need to relate to somebody else and build trust, come back to the title of this itself, that trust bridge, that takes a human element to do that, and to do it at speed. And then the second half, like the next 3 units, are what I'd class your more traditional business ones, and this is about applying human performance in a business setting. So the international strategy of business and alignment with systems, the finance and wealth investment and understanding those wealth and financial structures, but then also looking at the international market and cultural intelligence as well. So through that programme already, it's about developing high performance but in a sustainable way of the individual, and then enabling them to develop the business acumen to apply that in business, to either accelerate their existing career, grow and scale their business if they're a business owner or director, or look at how they can apply that in the market to help them get their next job, if that's something they're looking at from a succession planning. And we've got other pathways that we're bringing on board that are more sector specific as well. But yeah, I think that the skills agenda is there. I think tech companies are going to be able to compete on who can afford the tech and the development of the advancements, so that differentiator in who's going to succeed as an individual will come down. I absolutely wholeheartedly believe on more of those personal characteristics. So I think they're the bits to always embed.
And just to add to that, Sarah, I think it's really important to recognise that actually people don't, especially young graduates or young people in their early careers, they don't have the same benefits as maybe you and I had as we were developing our careers, because we were able to experience lots of different things and test out things and learn as we were going along. That's not the case anymore. Usually a job is a job and it's quite specific, and you don't have that opportunity to develop and understand things in the way. And as we become quite global in our, just looking at it from a university setting, we have staff based locally, so there isn't the need for staff to travel out as much as they used to, etc., because we've got staff that are based locally and understand that. So that learning and that skills, build up over time is not there, and therefore programs like what you've described become even more important, because there's no way to really understand the need for those skills or to even develop them yourself naturally, organically. So I think, it's really, really important. And I think that's what a lot of employers are seeing as, the issues right now, because they need people to come in with those things already there, but they don't exist because they're not naturally acquired at jobs at lower levels. So as people progress their careers, they just don't have it in the same way that may have been in the past.
Going to those sort of what may be viewed as missing bits in those sorts of things, when students, and again, I'm so pleased that we can talk about the very, the early pathway and the executive programs at both sort of the other side, both sides of the main core higher education. So in either of those, it was brought to my attention by some of the people researching this before we did it, that the first 8 weeks, see if you would agree with this, they were saying the first 8 weeks of any sort of pathway program is where most of the attrition risks sit. So it's during those first 8 weeks that people are likely to lose students. For the younger ones who are just traveled, it might be homesickness and things like that, which they're trying to get over. That's a very real thing. There can be academic culture shock just being in whatever new country you're in, or even in terms of some of the stuff we've been talking about, Sarah, with a lot of your online provision. People can feel quite isolated. This happened a lot during the pandemic. People were quite on their own. It came to the fore a lot. So what kind of interventions do you think matter most in making sure that doesn't happen? What kind of things do you either currently put in place or think you should or have thought about for your programs to make sure that you don't lose people in those first really crucial 8 weeks?
Yeah, well, I think for us, one of the key things is actually, first of all, motivation for doing it in the first place. So even before, enrolling and paying the money, actually having through email or through an online interview discussion, not a formal yes, we'll take you or not, but actually just discovering why they want to do it. I think the why is a really big thing, and the why is the thing that carries you through most things if it's important to you. So why do they want to do it? What do they want to get out of it? So we really can just start that individual journey from there and start to get to know them, because that's that formation of a relationship and trust and support going forward. So anything that can happen before any kind of commercial agreement's taken place to just find out and support them, right then through to pre-communications ahead of registration, managing expectations, familiarisation of how to use, particularly when it's the online. We do familiarisation of how to just navigate the platforms, how to access things, checking technology works collectively online. I think if an issue is going to happen, it either needs to be resolved quickly, otherwise it's going to be compounded. So recognising the pastoral support that's available, the different resources, the different ways of being in touch with our team and our team with them, expectations of, we've got all sorts of files and resources online about just academic support, academic writing, because again, at kind of our end, it's quite often we have people who haven't studied for quite a while and now come back in and they have to do an academic piece of work, and that can feel quite different to, when you have to write a report for your employer. So, there's a lot of resources. They don't need to wait for an online live session. There's a lot of resources that they can access, even things like how you reference, and that's the online side. I think, I think those who come into a different country, coming back to that piece I said about resilience, there's daily resilience, and that's about how we manage just our daily energy systems and approaches and reflections and lessons and learning and social network, to that transitional piece about actually horizon scanning and preempting, and then having a support network in place that enables us to perform and overcome and move forward. I think a lot of the work needs to be done and ready for when they join, and then it's about having that network there, whether it's online or in person. And making sure everyone's aware. But I think a lot of that comes down to actually kind of caring about the student and the learner, and that motive, why are they doing it? Because I think we probably all know ourselves, if there's a motivation and what it is you want to get from it, it's easier to manage those harder times, which will always come. There'll always be something.
I think Sarah's mentioned quite a few, but I think that removing the barriers, engagement's really, really key. Making, particularly when you're dealing with students that are coming to the UK for the first time, making them feel part of the university community, part of the city, the town that they're in. We run lots of different programs. You have the welcome weeks where you have activities, events where they can meet people and try to start building some relationships that way. We also do lots of things with the local community. We're very fortunate in the UK to be very multicultural, very diverse populations around the UK. So we have significant ethnic minority communities based locally. So we try to create a home from home. So if you're missing food, you're missing the local language, you can connect with people locally that are from your home country, and we have supportive associations and community groups that work very closely with the university to create that soft landing for students in that world, which makes a huge difference when you're coming to the UK for the first time, and helps you to build networks. It can help find accommodation, part-time jobs, all of those types of things, which are sometimes things that are really difficult to find when you first come to the UK or to a new environment. And I think that engagement and making sure that people are not left alone, and they may not reach out to you, so you have to sometimes reach out to them. So really good scheme that the university here has introduced is at the beginning of term, a few weeks in, we do a walk around where we go to halls of residence, we go to areas where students live, and we members of staff, literally part of members of Students' Union, knock on halls of residence doors. I've done it myself, where you turn up and you knock and say, "Hi, I'm Bobby. I work in the global office. This is what I do. I'm just coming around," and they know it because we've put leaflets around, so they're expecting it. But we just go in. Sometimes they're very shy and not, don't want to be as talkative, but often they welcome you in. They talk to you and they tell you some of the challenges that they face, some of the issues that they're facing. And what we then do is, particularly with the issues, we try to record them, we try to follow up on them, we give them to colleagues in different areas, whether that be student services or accommodation, to address those things as quickly as possible, so that they don't linger and they don't become issues which then become game changers and potentially lead to students dropping out. And generally that type of stuff is really welcomed and appreciated, because once the students are with us in Portsmouth, we believe they're part of the Portsmouth family, they're here, and even when they graduate and leave, they're still part of that community. They become alumni of the universities and ambassadors in their own right. So yeah, we try to engage and foster that type of culture wherever possible. And those are approaches which I personally would love to see, every university doing, and I think it would make a lot of difference.
Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, it does, and I good to hear both of you, mention catching those issues, well, before they become issues. It's letting them mushroom. Seeing those early red flags as quickly as possible can really, just solve it very quickly before it rolls out of work. So we've been here for a bit, so I want to move on. I want to keep you guys forever. I'm really appreciative of your time. So let's just talk for a couple of minutes about the future of this, of global education and the pathways and how you see it. Visa rules keep shifting. They're going to keep shifting. Compliance thresholds, they change all the time. But the fundamental question, is just, do these pathways actually work? It's not going away. That question's going to be asked too. So 5-10 years from now, what does a really genuinely, great pathway program, executive program look like that maybe doesn't exist today? What do you think? Where do you think this is going to go in the future?
If I jump in first, then I think for me, hopefully it's what we're starting to build out now and grow for exactly that reason. For me, they will need to be integrated, they will need to be personalised, and they will need to be transparent in terms of that, the underpinning academic rigour and just the quality that enables them to have that connectivity. So I think the integration bit's really key. It's coming back to what I said at the beginning. I think learners want opportunity and choice, and so one pathway to one provider, I think that will become less attractive. I think multiple pathways, multiple providers, multiple options, multiple ways of building and doing that. Transparency as to what doors are open and what barriers or hurdles do you need to get over in order to get them will be key, and that communication, I guess, across right from the recruiting, the advisors in country, the counsellors. I think that communication piece needs to connect all the way up to and following graduation. It needs to feel like a seamless journey for the person that chooses to go on it.
Yeah, and look, I agree with you. It has to be a seamless journey. That interconnectivity, I think education is going to be continuous. So seeing that and how it all fits together is going to be really, really important. I think education is still key, and I think education is a significant contributor to social mobility as well, and the improvement of the society we live in, and knowledge will help to improve that. The way that knowledge is acquired, is it higher education, is it apprenticeships, is it more skills, vocationally driven agendas or ways of getting qualifications? I think there is a spectrum of different opportunities, different things for different people based on what their interests in will definitely prevail. I think universities will evolve. I think that some of the programs that you're running and the skills things that you're putting on the table at the moment, I see universities having to make sure that that's more embedded within the programs that they offer, because I see all those soft skills, particularly the 3 modules that you mentioned that you offer at the beginning of the program. Those 3 modules, I see that every graduate in the future needs those, as you quite rightly highlighted. So I think universities 100% need to be looking at that, and they will be seeing how that they intertwine that into the outcomes that come with degrees as we move forward. But it's a really uncertain time and a really uncertain world. Things are changing at a pace, so it would be really difficult to look further than the next 4 or 5 years to see what the real next part is going to be, because particularly I think the revolution of AI will bring, it does change things significantly, and we do need to understand that better and to see how, not that it's a bad thing, I think how we evolve with it and utilize it to maximize and continue that evolution and move forward. And education is going to be fundamental to that, and how we harness that and create things going forward. But I think education in different forms and throughout a lifetime will definitely be a key part. So it's not a case of you go to university, you get your degree and you're set for life. I think, yes, you may go to university, you may get a degree, but that continuous long life learning will definitely be part of it, because even now, I find myself, I'm on programs at the moment around AI and learning how to introduce AI into, so we all have to do it. We're not immune to it, and it's moving at a pace. So it'll be interesting to see where we end up.
It will indeed. And Sarah and Bobby, I want to thank you both very much for joining me today. Really, for your thoughtful and honest input. And actually, I'm glad to see, as a company, MSM Unify, we agree with you, and we believe that, global education works best, as you described it, when institutions, academic partners, and students are all aligned around outcomes and integrity and long-term value. And we appreciate Illuminare Executive Education and the University of Portsmouth for sharing your individual perspectives, your personal and company's perspectives. And we look forward to building a meaningful impact together over time. So I look forward to seeing you again. And thank you to everyone who joined in for us. Thank you both very much.